Okay, let's get started. Welcome everybody at a new Bytes of Innovation webinar. Bytes of Innovation is a webinar series that is powered by Segmed, and Segmed is a company that provides medical imaging data to the research community. At Bytes of Innovation, we invite key opinion leaders to talk about the future of healthcare. Usually they either give a presentation or we do a fireside chat where we ask questions and have a discussion with the key opinion leader. And today we're going to actually do a fireside chat. This fireside chat will be co-hosted by Dr. Aline Lutz. She is the Vice President of Real World Evidence and Clinical Insights at Segmed. And I will co-moderate with her. I am Martin Willemink, co-founder and Chief Scientific Officer at Segmed. Today, I'm very proud to announce that we have Dr. Amine Korchi amongst us, and he is a Swiss radiologist and a very highly recognized thought leader in medical innovation and radiology AI. He was one of the first radiologists to actually actively engage in the development of AI for radiology and also to integrate this into the clinical practice. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Over the years, he has not only advised, but also invested and even co-built products with several of the most innovative companies and startups in the field. He previously was the chief medical officer at Zerobue, which is a Danish MRI company, MRI AI company, and his experience spans between clinical practice, industry, and investments. He trained at Geneva University Hospital in Switzerland and served as a researcher and PI at the University of Montreal. And today we're going to talk with Amine about how AI is really changing radiology from AI model to the reading room. Welcome, Amine, and great to have you here.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, I'm gonna unshare the screen. There we go. Okay, perfect. Well, so you were one of the first radiologists to actually actively build and use AI in a clinical practice. Can you take us back to those days when it all started and what convinced you to think, hey, this is something that's not just a cool research project, but something that's actually going to have an impact on clinical practice?
My first formal encounter with AI, if you can say that way, was approximately 8 years ago. I was at that time working on a consulting project, advising a large biopharma company on the technological transformation of their clinical development program, so the clinical trials. So at that time, I was working with a team, and we screened all possible technologies, companies that could be useful for this purpose. And it is within this context where AI was just a very slim subset of the possible technological application that I saw what AI can do on images. And it immediately clicked that if AI was about to change a discipline, it will be radiology, because the early papers were clear that the performance were already at that time very good. And while researching the technology itself and reading about the architecture, the convolutional neural networks, the philosophy of deep learning matched, from my perspective, I had the intuition and the conviction that it matched pretty well medical imaging, because medical imaging are just, it's patterns, shades of gray, borders, and convolutional neural networks are very good at it. So that was the first contact, and I felt this was more than just a marginal technology or a passing fad. It was, I see a surfboard behind you. It was like being at the perfect position at the peak, and then you see the best wave of the day coming for you. I just had to do 2 or 3 paddle and take off. That was my first encounter with AI, and looking back, the intuition was right.
Yeah, that's totally right. And then, okay, so when we talk about radiology AI, there's multiple interpretations of that, right? It could be, hey, is there an AI model that can help a radiologist with detecting something, or it's actually AI that can improve the workflow, like help triage and things like that. What's your interpretation of radiology AI, and where do you think are the biggest opportunities?
So the applications of AI in radiology are broad. You can literally apply AI from the first step of the radiology journey, the appointment, to the last step, which is communication. Because AI has been applied heavily on images, following the ImageNet in 2012, if not wrong, breakthrough. Most applications were around imaging, where AI is very helpful is when it solves a problem, and when it is not only performant but also available when we need it. So this is what I call practical AI. It is something that works well and is available when we need it, and it can be on the images but also on the text or on the voice side.
So let's discuss a bit about AI in the reading room today. Where do you see most value? So from your experience, what do you think separates AI tools that get really adopted from those that quietly disappear after some time after implementation?
There are a lot of factors that influence the adoption and the success of a software or product. So far, the product that had a lot of success are products that work very well. So they have a good sensitivity, a good specificity in terms of diagnostic performance. There are products that are easily accessible in our user interface and our workflow, and products that ease a little bit our burden and our mental load. So it's a combination of diagnostic and clinical aspect, but also human factors.
Yeah, indeed. The cognitive load is really something to address especially for clinicians under a lot of pressure to deliver high volume care.
Exactly. We have seen a strong increase of volume over the years, but our tools did not change. We have the same radiology information system and the same PACS that I had when I began my training in 2009. And this mismatch causes a lot of our pain and this burnout epidemic. This is where AI can act, and AI is part of the solution.
Yeah, so true. And then if you could tell us maybe some examples of where AI use cases are delivering value in routine clinical practice from what you've seen, and either now or in the near future, where do you think we can get most value from?
Currently, so you hear a lot, there is 1,000 FDA approved product. In reality, there are a couple dozen, maybe 20, 30 distinct use case of radiology AI product, like bone fracture detection, brain MRI, volumetry. So approximately 30 of these applications. I'm fortunate to work in a group where we have been early adopters, so we are currently using 12 AI tools in clinical routine. My experience is that a good AI model that is well integrated gives good performance, and I get used to it. I build trust when using it. Not only improve my personal diagnostic performance, I will miss less lesions. I will introduce quantitative element in my report, increasing the quality of my report. But it also reduces a little bit the stress, the mental load. And when I am in alignment with the AI model, I can sign off my report faster. So most of the impact and the benefit today of all these AI models, because they are focused on image analysis and abnormality detection, because these AI models provide more data for the radiologist to process, we can think that it will consume more of our time because we need to process more data. At the end, we still need to do our report. In reality, what I have seen is with models that work very well, you become a team with AI. You build confidence, and then you go faster. Either AI helps you detect much faster the lesion, or if there are no lesion or there are no new lesion, for example, for multiple sclerosis follow-up, then you will not double or triple check. If you're in alignment with a software that you trust, you can sign off your report. Regarding the use cases, the specific ones, as I said, there are maybe 30. There are some that are more used than others. The one that are the most used are the one for 2D imaging, like musculoskeletal X-ray, chest X-ray, mammography. For brain MRI AI was one of the first applications to be developed for the volumetry or the white matter lesion segmentation, volumetry also and longitudinal follow-up. In the group where I work, we co-developed software with an industrial partner for knee MRI, which is also very useful because not only it helps us make sure we are not missing a lesion, but it gives us automatic measurements of different metrics of the knee and also a preliminary report. And some of my colleagues did research on the impact of this tool, and they found out that in a subset of radiologists, generalist radiologists, the software improved their efficiency by accelerating the time to report. So those are some examples, but all in all, and I'm speaking globally about the radiology community and the first feedback about using AI, currently in 2026, it's undeniable that AI improves the diagnostic performance, the quality of the report. You miss less lesions, and these lesions, they can be cancer, by the way. It can be very significant and impactful for the patient pathway, or a new lesion for MS, multiple sclerosis, that can change the treatment. There is not a lot of efficiency gain today. The efficiency gain that we have today are indirect because you have trust, you go faster, you don't double check. But what we can predict is that within 2 to 5 years, because we are having more and more integration of AI result in the report and more preliminary report, that we will see more radical efficiency gain in the future.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. One quick question. I see we have a first question from the audience, which we will do soon. But I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that you use the AI models that improve the workflow, that you know that you're getting more efficient or faster. How do you evaluate that? Let's say you have a new potential AI model. What do you do before you actually implement it in the clinical practice?
Well, that's a great question. So today, if you look at the broad picture, if you look at all early adopters, or even the early majority that is using AI, there is not a lot of structured process. I mean, globally, right? In the group where I work, we have a dedicated R&D team and dedicated headcount and budget to lead these evaluation in a structured format. But in the broad healthcare community, it is not sophisticated and structured. Most of the healthcare institution, they test during pilots, and they get a subjective impression of software, which can also be good, right? If all radiologists agree that after 3 months of use, this software works pretty well and improve the diagnostic performance and the efficiency. But in some centers that are more structured, more advanced, there could be more structured evaluation with dedicated data sets that are ready, data sets coming from the institution on which you can test the model in your data, representative of your real world data. That should be the right way to do it, and to be able to infer some metrics and to make sure that there are no blind spots in your evaluation.
It's interesting. There at some point there should be, like, globally, I agree with that, like a way to actually evaluate which models do work well in my environment, and should I implement, and why should I implement them. Okay, so we're actually getting multiple questions from the audience now, so let me start with the first one, which comes from Jay. Do you see AI models or foundation models more broadly work better in a certain subset of radiology, like a subspecialty or specific indications? And if so, where do you see the gap of where more work is needed in the AI space?
That's a broad question. In terms of modality, AI works pretty well and is reliable and more stable and more generalizable on 2D imaging, because it's simpler images, right? If you look at the musculoskeletal X-ray, the borders of the bone are sharp, the contrast is high, compared to MRI, where there are no absolute values of the pixel. It's all relative values. And there is a high variability in the parameter of the sequences, even in the same machine. So MRI is more complex than X-ray. Where I see the gap, maybe that leads us to what could be the next step for radiology AI, is models that are able not just to detect one or two findings, but the most relevant findings for an exam. And the goal is to be able to construct or to build the report and help us radiologists. Our work is to create a report, help us create this report faster and with a higher quality. This is one axis of development. The second axis of development is being able to see more with AI than we see today. Typical example is being able to predict the risk occurrence of cancer. There are already some evidence and some models that do this. For example, I have read recently a paper that an AI model was able to predict the occurrence of breast cancer 5 to 10 years before it is visible and diagnosed by radiologists, because AI is able to see some patterns that we don't see. So developing models that add very strong value by seeing the unseen could be very valuable. And another axis also is a better integration of the AI result in our workflow, in our user interfaces, in our report, being able to interact with AI or with this form of intelligence, of clinical decision support, being able to interact with voice, or through click, whatever. Those are some of the gaps that I see today.
And we do have many more.
We can discuss many hours about the gaps and the future.
We do have many more questions in the chat. So there is one from Guido Matthews, and he's asking about this paradox that currently many customer-facing or consumer AI tools are not regulated, whereas for medical device and the tools that we use in our clinical practice, they are heavily regulated. So how this paradox unfolds, and what do you see in terms of challenges as well as responsibility, and how should the regulation work, given that patients are having faster access to tools than actually doctors and hospitals?
Yeah, it's a very interesting discussion. So patients and doctors, by the way, they have access to freely available AI tools online, conversational AI, without naming any of these very successful software that are available online. And they are using it for healthcare, for their own healthcare, before these software are fit for healthcare. So that indicates us that there is a strong need for medical information for patients. People need information, and they need it at the time where they want, and it's hard for them to get there either through conventional search or conventional healthcare system. So for me, the first strong insight is that there is a need, and someone needs to fulfill this need, right? And as professionals, as medical professionals, we are faced with situation where patients comes with a lot of information they gathered online, specific information for their cases, and we need to handle these elements. So what we see in the industry is that the main developer of these conversational tools, they heard this and they're working toward building healthcare specific or healthcare grade conversational AI for consumers. As professionals, what we can do is collaborate with them to bring them the domain expertise that they might need to help them just integrate these into the patient pathways. This is one axis. And for the tools we use, obviously they are medical devices, so they follow the same regulation. And I believe that for AI, regulation needs to evolve and to adapt to the ever-learning characteristic of AI. It's not sustainable for a startup or a company to fill a new regulatory request or file for every new release, because we will need, in the future, this software will learn continuously on real world data. And regulators, they obviously heard this, and there are a lot of programs to improve and go toward this kind of more flexible regulatory approval.
Along similar lines, there's a question from Hans at Deep Sea, and he's asking, how do you see the role of large general purpose AI capabilities versus the more narrow and very specific tasks, tools in imaging? So do you think there's still room for these very specialized radiology-focused solutions, or do you think that the market and the industry will probably follow the general purpose AI?
So my opinion about this topic, which is a critical topic for any company developing AI, my opinion is that the future is toward large models, particularly vision language models for radiology, vision language models, models that will take as an input the whole case, the whole image, the whole CT, the whole MRI, and output a near complete report or output a list of abnormalities or relevant information. This is the direction. At least this is my opinion about the direction. Today, I have looked at the result of these early vision language models. The results are not good. It's not ready for clinical use. So some companies have developed foundational models. So it's not necessarily producing the report. It's not a vision to language model, but it's a model that will detect multiple abnormalities. This is most probably the intermediate step. But the future is large models vision language models, multimodal models. And it is possible that companies that focus their entire R&D on narrow lesion-specific AI would lag behind the new companies that are using these large language models, and future will tell.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the broader models have a much brighter future than the narrow single task or one-trick pony kind of models. What do you think about? You mentioned multimodal very briefly. What do you think is the value of the multimodal? Like instead of just looking at the image, actually looking at the image plus, all the clinical information that's out there.
Yeah, same opinion. The future is multimodal. We physicians, not radiologists, are multimodal by design, by definition. Multimodal will certainly yield results that are not attainable today. That some insights are not attainable today. We don't know some element about the disease of the patients. Multimodal AI can find these connections. There are early evidences that multimodal diagnostic is better than unimodal diagnostic in oncology, particularly if you mix radiology with pathology and genomics, you have a better predictive power on the response of therapy. So it is, for me, very obvious that the future will be multimodal, but it will be very hard to integrate in clinical practice. Because when you do a research project, you have your own data center or database, and you prepare your data. It's easy to give to the AI model radiology, pathology, and genomics. But in real life, in the hospital, I don't see today any hospital able to channel all these pieces of information, all these modalities to the AI model at the right time and to give the result. So most probably the next step for the healthcare system is to work on the data infrastructure and to make sure that the data, the different tests can be channeled toward an AI. And we're not there yet. So the problem will be just IT operations, even if you have a great model. So that's why I think it's more something for mid to long term, the clinical application of multimodal AI. But I'm extremely excited about the results. I'm convinced that multimodal will lead us to discovery. It's not just diagnostic, it's discovering new biomarkers. If you go at the cell level, maybe discovering new pathways that can lead to new drugs. So that's really a big thing.
Yeah, that's why I like this discussion, by the way, because we can talk about the theory or the research of multimodal data and models, and that's all great, but actually implementing it in clinical practice is a whole different story. So I like your answer there. By the way, Aline and I prepared all these questions, but we keep getting new questions from the audience, so we'll just keep going and getting the audience questions in front of you. I mean, this one is coming from Jitendra Bhawnani, asking about the integration of the AI models, because you can have a great AI model, but if you have to switch from your PAC system to other widgets or places, then that's going to slow radiologists down. It's not going to help. What are your thoughts on the best integration approaches to minimize the disruption to the actual workflow of the radiologist in clinical practice?
Well, it's an easy answer. The best is to have this AI when I need it. So how we work is that we open the images, we look at the images, we get the report. So we need the AI result with the images today. That's, I would say, the minimum. It's also the standard, by the way. Most, if not all, manufacturers of software, they provide secondary captures on the PACs, and you can look at them, and then you can also integrate them in your report. So that's, I would say, level one. The next level is to be able to interact with these results. be able, for example, to correct them if they're wrong, be able to take some information, put it in your report easily. And level 3 is when AI provides you the report, but a report that you can edit, a report in your own radiology information system, not a report on a PDF format as a secondary capture that you cannot copy paste, something that is perfectly seamlessly integrated and with which you can interact. So those are the 3 levels of integration that I can see. Today it's fine, but it is the last mile, which is a report. It's not done yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that that approach.
But going outside of our environment, sorry to interrupt, because that's a very important point, particularly for entrepreneurs that developed a good product, and but the product runs on a cloud, and you have to go on an internet browser. This is a roadblock. This won't work. It can work for an application that you will use once a day. Or it can work if you're looking at only one type of exam, right? Let's say prostate MR, and then you can read your whole set of exam on this new user interface. But that's not the case of most radiologists. So going outside of our environment, this will not work.
Yeah, that will slow down and it will disrupt the workflow. That makes sense. The next question from Dr. Ramprabhu is about, in line with the previous question where we talked about the tools or the workflow. His question their question is more about what team do we need? What kind of people do we need to be able to implement AI appropriately?
Oh, that's a great question. It's a great question because we underestimate the resources that a healthcare organization needs to implement AI. You need first the involvement of the clinical team, the radiologist, because the radiologist, the technologists also, they know what is the need. They can evaluate also the performance of the model. You will need the management also because you need to pay for these tools. You need to find the financing and put in place the agreements. You need the IT, the traditional IT of the hospital for the basic foundational connections between the AI model, which is usually runs in the cloud or locally on a local station. And you will need application specialists, particularly if you're a large hospital or a new kind of professional, usually from IT or from the technology team that will work at the intersection of all these units to make some adjustment, to do the monitoring of the AI model. So it's not overnight that you can build this team and also build the skills, because the healthcare organization has to learn also how to integrate AI, how to monitor AI, how to interact with these companies, how to interact with the cloud, and it takes time to build these skills. And maybe that's the main message for healthcare institution in 2026, is to not wait too long to invest in all these infrastructure, teams, and skills, because AI is here to stay. Patients are requiring AI more and more because patients are informed and they know that AI improves the diagnostic performance. So they will go to the institution where there is AI. Radiologists and physicians, the one that have been exposed to AI, overall, they don't want to go back and work without AI. So they will also work in institution where there is AI. So for healthcare institution, I think it's the perfect time to invest and get ready for the future, for what will be the standard of the future.
We have another question from Marco Reboledo. He's asking about data sources. What do you recommend for in terms of data sources for training and fine-tuning AI algorithms? And by the way, before I pass it to you, Segmed does provide data sets for both AI training and validation, these data sets can be curated by the user. We have a platform for that, and also they are regulatory ready and fully de-identified data. Yeah. So I mean, what's your approach for
that's what I was
sets?
about to say. I mean that's the right place to ask this question with Segmed. So if for the development of an AI tool as an industrial, what you're looking for is a very diverse data set. And by diverse, it means data coming from all over the world, right? Covering all diseases. So you should reach for the maximum diversity. For a healthcare institution or a group of radiologists willing to test an AI model on their own data, then there will be the data set with their own data, the local data, see if the model works well. And to go back to the R&D and the industry part, it's not easy for young companies, small companies to get data because it's complex, it's costly, and with companies like Segmed, Segmed is facilitating this step because you are doing all the hard work of contracting with the hospitals, clearing this data flow in terms of regulation and legal. So it's not an easy thing. So companies like Segmed are facilitating this, and companies also startups that are looking for data can also be creative in their relationship with hospitals. Maybe they can explore collaboration with hospitals, co-development with hospitals. Some hospitals, some healthcare institutions are open to share data and even share clinical knowledge and guidance to build the model in exchange of a downstream revenue share in the future. That's some thought about data and AI development. And the last point is synthetic data is something that it needs to be explored also, particularly for data augmentation. I'm not sure if pure synthetic data will replace native data. This is something maybe I would love to hear you talk about. And Aline, do you think synthetic data can fully replace real data for training?
So my personal view is that it cannot fully replace. Rather, we can use it for augmentation purposes, and as well as for cases where the patient identification is critical, and for cases and for use cases where we're dealing with rare diseases. So I think these are the main two purposes for synthetic data. Do you agree, Martin?
Yeah, I agree. Data augmentation and for training purposes. I don't think the FDA is going to like it if you say, well, half of the data is from not real patients. Maybe in the future, but I think right now its purpose is mostly on training data, enriching training data. Yeah.
I want to make sure we cover your experience as an investor. So could you tell us a bit what makes a company interesting for you, and what drives your decision on investing in new companies?
That's obviously a very complex question. It's multidimensional. There are some very hard facts, like the revenue. I mean, because what is investing? Investing, it begins with cash. You give cash, right? Because you believe in a project, but at the end, you want to have a return in cash in the future. So so you want to make sure that what the company is building is needed and people want to pay for it. Because if they don't want to pay for it because it's not a must-have, then your money disappear. And in startups, it happens a lot. I mean, only 20% of the startup are successful. So the first is the hard facts. The hard facts are the revenue. And you don't need a lot of revenue to make a decision. If a startup is doing a few 100,000 and you see that there is a solid growth, that is a good proof that what they have built is needed and solve a real problem. In the field of radiology AI publications, publications in radiology journals are reassuring that the team is knowledgeable about radiology. The model has yielded some meaningful results. Other factors are, is this a must-have or a nice-to-have? Is this software very interesting and exciting scientifically, intellectually, or will it really solve a pain point for a radiologist to the point that the radiologist will pay for the software from his own budget? Because most of the hospitals today, they are paying from their own budget. There is no reimbursement for AI. Overall, there is a reduction in reimbursement for care. So if you, in Switzerland, since the beginning of the year, we are experiencing a reduction between 10 and 20% of what radiologists get for doing radiology. So it's hard to ask for these type of institutions to then pay more money for AI. So these products that can be successful and lead to the creation of a successful company needs to be must-have for an institution. The ecosystem is important. I usually invest in startups that either emerge from very robust ecosystems. By ecosystems, I mean support from investors, from academic institutions, from politics. You can feel that a great team in this environment can create a sustained, successful commercial company. And you can have a very bright team, a great idea, a good prototype, but in a city where there is no culture for startup entrepreneurship, not a lot of investors, and then it is a high risk of failure. Those are some of the elements. And maybe to close, the most important feature of a company that lead me to decide if I invest or no is the CEO, the founder, the CEO, by extension, the management team, CTO, CMO, but really it's the CEO, the guy who will lead things, make the company running, create the vision, execute the vision, raise the fund. And if I have the confidence in the CEO, I can invest even if I have some doubt on some other aspects. Because a startup is a story in writing. It's a work in process. You can begin, for example, in read. I have invested in companies that began in one segment of healthcare, and then they pivoted to another segment of healthcare, and it's great because they create a lot of value. Because the management team, the leaders, they saw that they needed to do a change for the course of the company. So, and we can speak a lot about it. It's a very complex decision to take, particularly if you invest your money, because you can there is a high risk of losing your money. So I'm super selective to reduce the risk.
I feel like we should have another Bytes of Innovation. I mean, to just talk about this part, because I think that's very intriguing, and I love the things you're saying. Unfortunately, we already hit the 45 minutes. We're at the end of the episode. So let me see if I can bring back my screen for, let's see, the last few words. So first of all, thank you, Amine, for being here. It was great to have you. A lot of insights, a good dynamic discussion with a lot of questions from the audience. So also thank you to the audience for providing your questions and making this discussion even more lively. Also, thank you to my co-moderator, Aline, of course, and Andrea, who you cannot see here, but she makes this all work. Andrea is our marketing manager at Segmed. So thanks everybody for being here. I would like to see you all at the next Bytes of Innovation webinar, which is February 12th with Eric Duhaime, the CEO and co-founder from Centaur Labs, and then March 10th is going to be the next one after that with Martina Einsader, who's a radiologist and also consultant for Segmed. So thank you all. and I hope to see you at the next Bytes of Innovation webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.